Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I've got a fantastic guest for you today. Welcome to the podcast. Her name is Heidi Mark, coming out of the UK, and she is the Gentle Rebel Coach. And we're going to talk all about how to avoid or manage overwhelm, especially during this upcoming holiday season, towards the end of the new year or to end of the year, and everybody's starting to get stressed out. And really happy to have her on the show and add some value to the audience. So, Heidi, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, briefly introduce yourself, and we'll dive right into the conversation and add value to the audience.
Okay, so I'm Heidi Mark. I'm based in England. I help people gently rebel against the idea that you have to push through overwhelm into exhaustion to have the full successful life you want. You really don't. And we all know it works until a certain point, and then it stops working. And then you start to have symptoms where you don't really recognize yourself anymore, and you get snappy and grumpy. And if you're really bad and unlucky like me, the wailing banshee comes out and you're not much fun to be around. And that's not what you work so hard for.
Yeah, I really love that in diving into it, just because I know you have a personal burnout story, and I'm sure a lot of the audience would resonate with it. Just share your experience and how it influenced your path to becoming the Gentle Rebel Coach.
Yeah, sure. A few years ago, I had a very successful career in teaching. I loved my job, but it was killing me, which I'm sure is a phrase so many people can relate to. We work so hard to have careers where we get to use our brilliant brains and we get to have some autonomy and freedom over our lives. We worked hard so we could have more joy, so we could have more choice in how we spent our time, so we could have well-paid, meaningful, satisfying work and a full life outside of work and look after ourselves better. And I struggled between those two things. I loved my job. It gave me so much. I was really good at it. There was a lot of room for expansion and personal growth and all good stuff, right? And I got lots of promotions and I did really well. And it was killing me. Literally, it was making me sick. It was making me insane. The first thing to go is I was losing my sense of humor, the ability to switch off and have fun and be myself. I was like, what's going on? This doesn't make any sense. Why did I work this hard? And I spent 8.5 years trying to solve the problem of myself. I thought there was something wrong with me because it's not from lack of knowledge. My degree is psychology. I've studied Buddhism. I knew yoga, mindfulness, meditation, all the stuff, and yet nothing worked. Or things work for a bit and then they stop working. And there's only so many massages, bubble baths, getting up early to meditate, trying to fit in more exercise, trying to eat better, hacking my sleep. I was really organized. I was really good at what I was doing, but I couldn't win. It didn't matter what I did. I just couldn't win. And eventually I walked out. And that meant I lost everything, right? I lost my confidence. My health was on the ground. I lost my financial security. And I lost a job that I loved. And I don't recommend that. Let me be your terrible warning. And luckily, I'd already set up my business, so I knew I couldn't stay. So I was setting up, doing what I'm doing now, but it took a while and it wasn't ready. So it was a real burning bridges experience. It's not the smoothest transition into a new career. And I had to rebuild my health at the same time as rebuilding my finances. And I built my business on the premise that I would never treat myself that badly again, that I would find a way to have the success I need, because I can't not have well-paid, meaningful work. It doesn't work for me. I need that. I love working, but I also need to feel well. And I also need to feel like myself. And there's other things I want to do. I don't want to just use my spare time to regroup, to get back into the fray. I want it all. And I know I want a lot. So I set myself the challenge to rebuild my life and build a business where I got to have all of that. And it took some time and it was a roller coaster at time, but it works. And the premise is that it found me, the gentle rebellion. To start with, I was trying to rebel, which is quite an angry energy, right? It's, I'm not doing it that way. I'm going to do it my way. But that costs me having to take a stand and make declarations and fight against. That doesn't work. I was exhausted, right? So instead, I learned to be gentle. A gentle rebellion is much cleverer. It's much sneakier and it works really well because you don't need to tell anyone. Your own is just a promise to yourself. You don't need to make any grandstands or anything. You just say, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. And I'm going to find my way of having what I want. And I'm going to do it gently, rebelliously, which is more, it's more humorous. It's just really good. So over time, the methodology that I developed and the way my coaching developed just suddenly became the gentle rebellion. It was extraordinary. It found me. And I just keep testing it and I'm blazing my own trail and I'm always just making it up as I go along. And then I share what's working for me and it works for my clients. And I now have a book and a long standing podcast and it works. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. There's so much to dissect in there, and we can take it a number of directions for the audience. And one of the things that you were interested that would really stood out to me that would be of value to the audience is talking about, for example, a lot of the audience are doctors, lawyers, very ambitious, high achieving. They're used to bam go, and all of a sudden, sorry,
Yeah, my kind of people.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all of a sudden, they're here with something. They're here with a health crisis. They're here with a burnout. They're here with a layoff or just something that forces them out and they have to step back. And
Yeah.
a lot of them, this period can be very dark and some of them don't make it. And one of the most common things that people experience in this is, okay, they were making a certain level of income when all of a sudden they got to cut back 90% of theirs and then their identity is lost in there. So how do you, when during this period, how do you let go during the step back and how do you eliminate this fear of missing out? Like a lot of them, they're like, they got to take 2, 3 years off to fix their health, their relationship, and they're not making this income. They're like, oh my God, all my colleagues are surpassing me. How do you manage this?
If you've reached that stage, as I'm sure that you're aware, your priorities change, right? It's no longer, for me, one of the most shocking things actually was losing my empathy. I no longer cared. And a job that I gave my heart to, I was so exhausted and so done in by the system, and I'd been bullied and I was not being appreciated and I'd given so much. And yet you leave and nobody notices. And that realization that in the end, I have to take care of myself, that actually, despite my generosity and big heartedness, if I want to have the life I want, I've got to take care of myself properly. None of this adding in more things to do. No adding in more pressure. No adding in, you must get up early and meditate and go for a run and eat all this food and do all this sleeping. And no, let go of the pressure because actually most of the pressure is internal. Most of it is self-judgment. It's self-imposed pressure. And it's understandable because if you're highly driven and highly conscientious and big-hearted, then is it surprising that you're burning out? You want a lot because you're highly driven. If you're capable of that single-minded focus and of ignoring the needs of your body. You are incredibly good at your job. So you have a good impact, right? You're in demand, you get promoted, you're doing really well. You're highly conscientious, you have very high standards, which is great. But what about you? If you don't have high standards for yourself first, in the end, you just run out. That's all that's happened is you've given too much away without valuing yourself. And when we learn to value ourselves, then everything will fall into place. It takes time, but that's okay. That's okay, because in your lifetime, this is a blip. And actually, it's a gift. It's hell at the time. But once you understand that you matter, how you are in the world matters, self-love, self-knowledge, self-awareness, there's your freedom. Once you find that freedom, then everything starts to come together. But you have to start loving yourself first.
Yeah, they're very powerful. And I experienced the same thing as you. And one thing was went into entrepreneurship because one of my values was am I doing this for some CEO or a corporation? I don't want to spend my time building their future while I'm working. I wanted to build my own. The other question I have for you is, for example, like media and like influence and speaking, that's like my passion and I can do it. I can do it 24/7, even if they didn't pay me like
Yeah.
this month. And this idea of, and some people are like, yeah, you need to work less. They work less. This is my passion. I love it. And so how do you differentiate this like between workaholism and this where it's like you're full hearted, you're committed because you love it?
That's a really good question. So I guess that's the difference, isn't it, between I love my job, but it's killing me, and I love my job, it's energizing me.
Yeah.
Like you've got to feel into that. And that takes courage and that takes deep self-awareness. That takes the courage to stop overusing your mind, which is what we're taught to do. We're taught to overuse the mind and ignore the heart and the body. So to me, it's about body, mind, and heart working together. And when you tap into the energy of the body, that groundedness, that really nourishing and looking after the body properly, which gives you the clarity and the energy to think straight. But when you then connect to the heart, you will find what lights you up. And you will also find your courage, because this takes courage, right? This takes courage, and courage is in the heart. And we are told not to follow the heart. And yeah, you don't want to follow the heart without taking care of the body and using your brilliant mind. You want all of it working together. And this top heavy thing of overusing the mind, that I believe is what gets us into trouble. And because the mind is designed to be easily overwhelmed in order to keep you safe from threats. But when you've grounded in the body and looking after yourself and really connected to the heart, follow the steps. And you will find what lights you up, and you will know, because it feels so different, right? What you're talking about, you light up with. I'm the same. When I'm coaching, when I'm speaking, when I'm writing, I'm energized. I'm like buzzing. This is what I was born to do. Now, that doesn't mean I wasn't good at my previous career. I was amazing. And there were times, and it's because there were times when I felt like this is what I was born to do. That's what got me addicted. But the truth is, I love my job, but it's killing me. That never stopped. But now I love my job and it energizes me. It lights me up. It gives me life. This is my life. This is just who I am. Like, I can't not do this. Like, I'm like you. If somebody didn't want to pay me, I still could just do it all the time. Find that. Find what lights you up. Find what your passion is. But then I just want to put a caveat there. There isn't one thing, and it's not a big deal. I think it's really important to get out of this. For me, I find it's very easy to pressure myself. So let's get out of the idea that we all have to have some big and purposeful mission. It's not about that. It's about joy. Everything we do is in order to change the way we feel. Everything we do is so we can have more freedom for joy. So find what lights you up. Follow the things that just make you smile. Follow the things that join together your unique knowledge and skills. And just follow the path, little breadcrumbs, and suddenly magical stuff starts happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's so well said. And yeah, I think there was a recent book that I read about ikigai and this passion that you're talking about, plus what the world needs, and then plus what people are willing to pay. And then once you get that
Mm.
balance, you're in ikigai or flow state. Moving the question on further, because it sounds like what did you mean by you are earlier on when you were introducing yourself, you said you're evolving this idea of a gentle rebellion. And it really sparked the curiosity in me, what it means, because you were saying it's always in constant flow and evolution, this idea of gentle rebellion.
Okay, so to start with, I was just like, I'm done with the old way of doing things. But that is a rebellion, right? But I was so exhausted. It
Yeah.
was like, I'm just going to have to do things differently. So then it was very much a matter of, because my body was screaming at me. First of all, it was mend my body, listen to my body. So I had already retrained as a Zen yoga teacher with a Zen master. So I had a lot of different energetic type skills going on, and that really helped me heal and center myself and ground myself.
Oh,
And then from there, once I started recovering, I was soon bored and I was like back into coaching people. I was just like, I was off, because that's what I need to do. And then after some time of coaching and talking about overwhelm and burnout and these kind of things, it became obvious there was a pattern. So then I just started to reflect, what are the things I keep repeating? And it was this idea of rebelling, but really gently. And I really like that oxymoron. The words gentle and rebellion don't go together, because one's gentle, soft approach, and the other's quite fierce, right? And I like that because it's playful. So the idea is that you just say, I'm done with the old way. I'm done with the idea that to have a life I want, to have success, to have money, to do something satisfying, I'm done with the idea that's going to cost me my health. I'm rebelling against that. That's what everybody's doing, and I'm just done with it. It's boring, it's tedious, it doesn't work. Look what it did to me. And then it just becomes, what does that mean for me? And it becomes very detailed because it's not a big stand. It's just, I know what I don't want. So what do I want? And it's that opening up of the questions until you're able to say, I don't do overwhelm. I don't do pressure. I don't do that pushing my body to the limit anymore. I'm not available for that. And then it says, so what am I available for? How do I take good care of myself? And what do I really want to do? Is back to that question of what is my work in the world that would light me up and other people need? So it becomes a very deep, but very gentle. So it's always light. It's both serious because it's your life, and it's light because it's playful, it's fun. Because once the actual good thing about burnout is you've burnt your bridges. It's serious. You have to pay attention to yourself, particularly to the body, because the body's screaming. So once you're in that state, I don't recommend it, but the advantage is you've burnt your bridges. You have to think. So gently rebelling allows you to go, I'm just going to do things differently. I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to blaze my trail. So it's that opposite. It's a Zen thing for me, like structure versus freedom, gentleness and rebelliousness. I just like the different feel of those words.
Yeah. A follow-up question I have for you is earlier on, what I really like, what I really found interesting was this idea you said hacking sleep. How do you hack sleep?
I read all the sleep books because I couldn't sleep, right? So I thought I had work-life balance sorted. So I'd go in early, work late, and I always left work at work. Whereas most people took it home. I'm like, it's no good taking it home. By the time I had a long commute, by the time I got home, I couldn't think straight, let alone work. It was so inefficient. I thought, no, I work efficiently at my desk. I'm just going to do the work at work. So I worked through my lunch break. I didn't take a break so that the idea was I could compartmentalize my life. That didn't work for me, right? That didn't work at all. So then, because what was actually happening is what I was suffering from was work-life leakage. So I call this work-life leakage, where you leave work at work, but you don't. You think you've left it at work, but you haven't. It's in your body. It's in your head. It's stuck inside you, right? It's leaking into every part of your life. It's replaying in the background as you try and talk to your partner. You can't hear your partner because it's so noisy in your head. And then let alone sleep, right? Because even if you fall asleep because you're so exhausted, you wake up in the night with this rehearsing of yesterday and the pre-rehearsal of tomorrow, and the trying to avoid, your mind's trying to problem solve to avoid any disasters and da 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 da. So it just doesn't work. So then I was like, I'm going to read all the sleep books and I'm going to hack my sleep. And I had it so that if I went, so you have to go to bed exactly the same time and get up at exactly the same time, and you have to have the exact conditions for sleep, and it's no coffee after this time and everything. It's called sleep hygiene. It's, yeah, it works, but where's my life gone? Because I can only sleep now if I have these very strict rules. And it was just another thing to fail at. It was just another restriction. It was just, I was already feeling incredibly overscheduled, compartmentalized. I was already feeling crushed. Yeah, so hacking my sleep. Yeah, I get why there's good science in it and stuff, but I don't hack my sleep now. Now I'm just, so for me, instead of hacking your sleep, create a life where it doesn't matter whether you sleep or not. Like, you sleep because you just do now, because you don't hold all of the stress in your body and your mind. But also, even if you have a bad night's sleep, your day isn't difficult. Just change your life rather than your sleep. That's how I do it now. I'm done with this. If I need 12 hours of deep sleep to recover from my day is wrong. I'm not available for that. That's no fun. Sleep is so precious and healing and important. Yeah. So that hacking your sleep is all of that sleep hygiene. And yeah, it's really hard work.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting because I've done similar things, and like just But like that best feeling is just at the when the sun sets and you've done everything and leave, and it's super hard to compartmentalize, and just at one point you just have to shut off everything and just like disengage because there's always that energetic pull. It's like, oh, I gotta be doing something, oh, I gotta be doing this and that, and that's also draining your energy. Another question I have for you is people, they say they like a lot of the audience, they're in these like lackluster careers, like hit a glass ceiling, that burnout, or they regret their career choices and they transition into something more healthy or holistic. And a lot of them are still resentful of what they like. I think subconsciously they view it as failure, but how do you let go of the resentment of just moving on? They're like, yeah, I gotta hang up my laurels, move on. This way of living isn't serving me anymore, but they're still resentful. For example, doctors are like, yeah, I shouldn't have gone into medicine, or they
Yeah.
tell kids, it's not worth it. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually bumped into a friend who I hadn't seen for years a couple of years ago, and she said, "Oh, are you still teaching?" And I'm like, "No, I burnt out." And she just looked at me and said, "We all knew that was going to happen." But that's that obvious thing. Like, I swore that was a career I swore I would never go into.
Yeah.
Like, my partner burnt out before I met him doing the same career. So I purposely went into something that I swore I'd never go into because I knew I would burn out, and I still did it and I burnt out. Come on, Heidi. That's like double failure, right? That's really crazy. So I really get that. I really understand that carrying of the weight of I made a mistake and I failed. And also for me, I suffered a lot from this. And I was also talking to somebody who had the same thing, where you can't even go in the vicinity of the building that you worked in because there's all this pain and this anxiety and this real deep hurt. I felt very hurt. So I really do understand that. So for me, it's been a very gradual letting go. Part of it has been a getting to know myself and take full responsibility. So it would be like, yeah, but you did do that. And there were good reasons why you did it. And you were very successful. And for example, the reason we have the house we have was because I was the one with earning the most money. If we hadn't done it that way, we might not have the house. So finding anything that's a positive, like the mind likes negative in order to keep you safe. So retraining it onto, but these are the good things that came out of it. Yes, maybe I could have done it differently. Also, secondly, what skills did you learn that you're now using? What did it give you? So for me, I was a really good teacher. I'm now teaching. I'm still teaching. I'm just teaching the stuff that I should have been teaching then, but now I do it better. So it gave me confidence. It gave me money. It gave me lots and lots of things. So harvesting the rewards. What did you, because it's not all good and bad. And the mind likes to make it into a black and white issue. You failed. You didn't fail. You did something for a while. It was successful. It wasn't as successful as you wanted. And you changed. It's all a success. So I would look at it through the gently rebellious lens of, what if this is all for me? So if you view it as all for you, I don't mean for you as in predestined. That's nonsense. I believe in for you as in, if this was for me, what is the gift? And harvest the gifts from it. Because when you start to feel nourished by your decision, when you start to see the good side of it, it's easier to let go. Because then you can let it go with a, thank you, but I'm so damn glad I'm not still doing that job because it wasn't me and I deserve better. And I'm so grateful that I burnt out. And I'm so grateful that it was so painful in the end that I could never go back, because it's now I'm free, right? So find the good in it. Secondly, it's worth considering, what is it costing you to hold on to the hurt and resentment? Because it will be costing you. It's heavy. It tends to cause a heaviness in the heart. There can be stress in the body, held patterns of tension. There can be a lot of rehearsal of past hurts in the head. That's costing you. You're no longer available for that crap. It cost you before. Let it all go. Gain the freedom, gain the energy. So harvest the good, let go of the rubbish, but gently rebelliously, which would mean I see that I'm hurting. I hold myself with love and compassion. I celebrate my courage for going into that career, doing my absolute best. And I also celebrate my courage in owning up to the fact that's just not good enough for me and that I want more. That's what I'd go for. Gently rebel against your whole idea that you made a mistake. You didn't. It was just an adventure and you changed direction. Good for you.
Wow, very powerful. How can people find you and learn more about you, reach out to you, check out your work, and so on?
Okay, so I have a podcast, Overwhelm is Optional, which comes out most weeks. I have a book, Overwhelm is Optional, available on Amazon. And you can reach me at my website, heidimark.co.uk.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And very powerful words of encouragement. And thanks so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise. And keep up the fantastic work.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.